need to buy yourself a gun. What? A gun? Oh. What? Like a handgun. For personal protection. If somebody tries to mug you. What? What if your government tries to throw you in a can? What? You're gonna want a shotgun. Oh. What? An automatic rifle. And a lot of ammo. Gun? Yeah, gun.
We're all set to riot. Buy a gun. Before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They'll burn you out like a Waco. They'll stick your ass in a camp. 10-foot cops in riot gear. Gonna kick your ass and laugh. The revolution is on its way. Better lock and load your AK. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. We're all set to riot. Buy a gun. Before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They gave no money to the banksters. They stole your pension funds. It's time that we took to the streets. It's time we had our turn. A revolution is on its way, and the founding fathers would say, buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Revolution's not clean and neat, you gotta riot in the streets. Revolution's not clean and neat.
Alright everybody, good evening. This is PrimerTime Radio and tonight is Tuesday, May 20th, 2014. The boys cannot be here tonight, so you have Jules and Eddie, Mr. Prepper Chick, sitting in tonight, and I think that we will be able to keep your interest for an hour. Good evening, Eddie.
Hey, Jules, how you doing? I like that, Mr. Prepper Chick. That's funny.
Mr. Prepper Chick, yes. So tonight we're going to take a look at a couple things. I'm sure at some point we will touch on firearms and firearm accessories as the boys usually do. But before we get there, I wanted to play a little clip of Mrs. Hillary Clinton from the other day and what she had to say about guns. Oh, but I have to unmute it first. Hold the phone. Here we go.
At the rate we're going, we're going to have so many people with guns everywhere, fully licensed, fully validated, in settings where they can be in a movie theater and they don't like somebody chewing gum loudly or talking on their cell phone, and decide they have a perfect right to defend themselves.
The vast majority of gun crime is not committed against the gum chewer, and it's a pretty silly and irresponsible thing to say when thousands die every year in major cities where guns are illegal because of drugs, gang wars, and mental health problems. So let's focus on those epidemics and not artificial straw men meant only to gin up political support. By the way, she also claimed we'll soon have a country where anybody can have a gun anywhere, anytime. If I told you all the places I'm not allowed to bring my gun, including into my own home if I live in certain parts of the country, well, it would take me until November 2016.
All right. So how about one of those places that it's illegal to bring a gun into your own home, like, I don't know, New York State in certain situations, Connecticut, New Jersey, soon to be. I don't know if you've been paying attention to any of that, Eddie. With some of this smart gun legislation that they're trying to push through.
They're crazy with that legislation. And New York City is the worst. I lived in New York City for 28 years. They have some of the strictest gun laws, and if you get caught, you go to jail. Even if it is a legal gun. If you're not a legal, permit holder, they will put you in jail. So I couldn't lend my pistol to my brother to go shoot.
I believe it's the same here. I mean, you need to have a pistol permit to possess a pistol in New York, and that's all of New York State. There's a 9-month waiting list, at least for my county, And even on the county website, it says don't even bother calling, like literally, until after 9 months to see what's up with your application. So until you have that application, you can't even go shopping for a pistol. So we have the SAFE Act here in New York as of last year. The rules went into effect as of April 15th of this year. I have not seen much in the way of any type of enforcement yet. I know that there was a class action lawsuit, and it was shot down by the Supreme Court for the unconstitutionality of some of what they passed here. But here's an interesting, I did a quick search earlier tonight to see what updates we had on the SAFE Act, and I don't know if anyone saw this, but it says 22 states are now challenging the constitutionality of New York's SAFE Act ban on semi-automatic weapons. And I thought this was, I was like, why would 22 states be challenging New York's law? But it's because the Supreme Court upheld the legality of the New York SAFE Act that now the rest of the states are going, whoa, wait a second. That then creates precedents. And because it was at a federal Supreme Court level, that could be applied to places other than New York. So let me just read just a little bit of this really quick. Attorney General Marty Jackley said South Dakota has joined 21 other states in a brief filed in appellate court challenging the constitutionality of New York's ban on semi-automatic weapons. Jackley said that while the ban only applies to New York, the federal court's upholding of the ban sets a quote-unquote concerning precedent. The federal judge in December upheld New York State's SAFE Act, the state's new gun control law, rejecting arguments that its ban on large-capacity magazines and the sale of popular semi-automatic rifles, AR-15, violates Second Amendment rights. The judge said those provisions are constitutional because they are related to achieving an, quote, important governmental interest, unquote, in public safety. The law was adopted following, of course, the Sandy Hook shooting in Connecticut. And yes, New York even beat Connecticut in its more stringent gun laws. Believe that one. The decision to this now 22 state challenge is being challenged in the Second U.S. District Court of Appeals. So I guess keep your eyes peeled to see what happens there. 22 states filed against New York State, which I think is pretty damn awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So I guess we'll see. Connecticut, I just saw a couple days ago they were having the 6-month Sandy Hook anniversary, tugging on lots of heartstrings. And then in New Jersey, they had a law that had been on the books, and I'm trying to remember because I did not pull the article. It was since the 90s, I thought, since like 1998, about smart-ish technology that once it was in effect that it would become law in New Jersey. And now that smart guns are kind of just touching the tip of the market, they really wanted to use that to kind of make New Jersey the crown jewel, right, for smart technology. And there's been quite a lashback on that. I think it was Maryland's, one of the first gun dealers that was planning on selling some of the smart technology. I mean, it was kind of horrible that he was getting death threats and things, but I guess people reacted pretty violently to that. So he decided not to sell smart guns. Have you run into those at all in any of your training classes or in your line of work?
The closest ones that we ran into was a company out of Italy called Chiappa. They make one good revolver. Everything else they make is junk. But what they were doing is they were putting RFID chips inside the grips of the pistols. And they were using the RFID chips as a for keeping track and counting the pistols. How many? So they would put, this is what they told us. They would put a whole pallet of guns, and then, you know, you would basically run the RFID gun over the pallet, and it would tell you, you know, how many of each type of pistol or rifle was in that, on that pallet.
Right, instant inventory. That's
right.
Yep.
And but the problem is that if you have a pistol with that on it, and you walk into an establishment that has an RFID reader in the doorway, automatically they know what kind of gun you have, who the manufacturer is, what caliber it is, whether it's a handgun or a revolver or a pistol, and they know all this information. They'll even know the serial number from that chip.
Wow.
So imagine walking in with something like that. So I quit buying stuff from that company right away. They only had one gun I liked and I didn't buy it. And then there was a big outcry about 2 years ago from them, and they stopped putting the chips into the pistols.
I mean, think about it. Even cops could do a scan as they're doing a slow cruise down a street, you know?
Oh, yeah, and the RFID readers that they have now, they say, oh, they're only good, 20 feet. That's a load of garbage, because I was watching an internet thing where a kid who was, computer kid, but he went in and he actually had it going from a third-story window down to the ground, and he was able to read everybody coming in the door of the hotel he was at.
Well, they can do it in shipyards. I mean, that's how they find out what's in a shipping container, and they do that from like a crane up above where they're doing the reader. They also have, chemical and radiological detectors that they scan everything with. But, yeah, that's not super close range. It doesn't have to be necessarily.
Not anymore.
Here, I had one little clip on smart gun technology about that guy in Maryland. Hold on one second.
Smart supporters and critics of gun rights find themselves on the same side of growing controversy. A new weapon called the smart gun uses computer technology to prevent anyone other than the gun's owner from shooting.
But now the gun store that planned to be the first in the country to sell the firearm is refusing. Jan Crawford is at a shooting range in Northern Virginia with some of the backlash. Jan, good morning.
Well, good morning. Okay, so some handguns have a safety like this one, and that's designed to keep the gun from firing accidentally. But a smart gun takes it to a whole nother level, and the technology behind those guns has sparked a nationwide debate and has the owner of a Maryland gun store in the crosshairs.
007.
It's something straight out of James Bond, a gun that only its owner can fire.
Also PPKS 9mm short. It's been coded to your palm print so only you can fire it.
That kind of technology now is available in the real world. It's called a smart gun. Made in Germany, it requires users to wear a radio-controlled watch to fire it. Maryland gun store owner Andy Raymond announced plans last week to sell it. But within 30 minutes of news getting out, the protests started coming in.
Things went crazy. And people just started calling. All three of our lines were just boom, boom, boom. 100 emails. I mean, just like that.
One caller warned Raymond's business would be burned to the ground. Another threatened that Raymond would get what was coming to him. It's a weapon that fires up people on both sides of the gun control debate. Some groups who support stringent gun laws say it could lead to wider gun ownership. Gun rights supporters are even more opposed. They say it could eventually make smart gun technology mandatory in all weapons. So Raymond backed down, announcing his decision not to sell the guns in a video rant he posted on Facebook.
So anyway, obviously I received numerous death threats today. I really appreciate that. That's classy.
A similar situation happened in Southern California in March. The Oak Tree Gun Club planned to sell the smart gun. There was a backlash from gun owners, and the store reversed course.
I don't know anybody that wants a smart gun.
Lee Williams is an investigative reporter for the Sarasota Herald Tribune who writes a gun column. He says opponents see the smart gun laws as a backdoor way to ban guns.
If you require only smart guns to be sold and only smart guns to be possessed, that the guns that they own now will be declared illegal, and it could be a further intrusion on their Second Amendment rights.
A New Jersey law would do just that. It would eventually require all handguns sold in the state to have the same kind of technology. California is considering a similar law, and Democrats in Congress have proposed federal legislation. But as the technology becomes more available, people on both sides say it's only a matter of time before these guns get on the market.
The technology isn't going away. If people want to defeat it, they need to defeat it in the free market. But don't buy it.
Now, Raymond says that smart guns really only are worthwhile at this point here, somewhere like at the shooting range, where if it doesn't work, it doesn't really matter. And other gun store representatives say the same thing. Mark Warner here at the Blue Ridge Arsenal, who opened up the shop for us this morning, says that the technology just isn't there at this point. And that's why some groups that you might think would be interested in it, like law enforcement, are just not ready to invest because they say the technology isn't reliable. Nora?
Interesting. Jan, thank you.
And you know, here's something I wanted to say about this. Back a few months ago, maybe even more than a few months ago, maybe it was more like 4 or 5 months ago, you know, when this whole thing with Syria was ramping up, the thing that we don't hear much about now because Ukraine and all the other, skirmishes, there's things going on everywhere all over the world now. But when Syria first ramped up and the whole Benghazi thing started and all the guns were being run across and around through Turkey and back down into Syria, some things started to come out after that, and we found out that, the CIA was training the rebels up in Turkey, and then, Turkey and Saudi Arabia were, through us giving the weapons to the rebels that we supported in Syria. And there was, and I'm trying to remember who the interview was with, there was one with Cheney, and there was one with, whoever the former Defense Department chief was. And they were talking about this technology. It was okay that we were sending guns to those rebels over there because we have this technology in the guns that we were sending that allowed us to use GPS to limit the range for where the guns were fireable, or we could set a time limit. They're only fireable between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m., or you can only have them be allowed to be fired between certain days. And so that's not a problem. And that was long before the smart gun technology ever trickled into our market, or at least us knowing about it. So I'm going to say what we're knowing right now is very mild to what they probably will be able to do with that technology in the future. Who knows if it isn't even in our guns now? You know what I mean? As far as we know, it's not, but...
I read an article about this. That same gun you're talking about, they were talking about either doing it with a wristwatch or with a ring.
Yes, I've seen the ring. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you could either do one or the other. I remember reading the article now that you talk about it. And then the other thing is, with that particular kind of technology, what's to say that if I'm a bad guy and I know that I'm going to be robbing people, if I don't come up with some sort of a transmitter that's going to interfere with that radio transmission or whatever that's going from the watch or ring to the pistol.
Or how about if I'm a bad guy and I just carry a machete and I chop off your finger or your wrist and take the gun? Right?
Well, that's one end of it, but you got to get close enough to fire. A trained person with a firearm won't let you get, they'll get off one shot. Like, I couldn't. You wouldn't be able to get, if Lori did not know you, you wouldn't be able to get within 15 feet of that woman without her hand being on her pistol.
Right. Do you think that seasoned gun owners would be willing to even purchase these things?
No, because that goes to one of the arguments that I used to have before I finally got converted. I used to believe that you have to have some sort of training before you can carry a gun, kind of like having a driver's license before you can drive. However, because of the Second Amendment, that little bit of training that they would mandate or require, that would infringe that Second Amendment right, and it said shall not be infringed. So even by requesting or requiring that little bit of training, you're infringing that right. And that's that slippery slope, because once they open the door and the guy gets his toe in the door with that one, you just got to take a 4-hour training. And then what's to stop them from saying, well, now if you don't pass this, and like they're doing in California now, where if you don't pay your taxes, they revoke your license to carry a gun.
I heard that. I thought Zori mentioned something about that. Yeah, That's crazy.
So, they're looking for ways to infringe your rights. So no training and looking with this gun thing, there's so many things that go wrong with it. Number one, it's a toe in the doorway as that salesman to keep you from going anywhere. Then that gets you with the electronics. And like these guys are hacking baby monitors now and laptops and looking into people's homes. How are they not going to hack those pistols or those guns and cause it to kill somebody you're not intending to kill?
Right. Make it fire without someone pulling a trigger. Yeah, that's a frightening thought, honestly.
So, that technology is getting a little carried away there. then you go with the infringement of the rights. So there's 2 strikes against it right off before they even get it in the door for me.
Mm-hmm.
So infringing my rights with by trying to legislate it, and then the other one is the technology aspect.
I mean, not that training is a bad thing, because, I mean, you obviously are a trainer, right? So, I mean, you would want to encourage that. Me, having had not much experience, and having taken a 4-day, class, I have to say it was highly beneficial to me. It took any doubts that I had or any fear that I had and made it all go away. 4 days of 10 hours a day, you know?
It's amazing. Yeah,
it is amazing.
I don't say don't train. You're kidding. I want you to train. That's how I make my money. But the thing is that I don't think it should be mandated by law or regulated. I think that a responsible gun owner will seek training. So I will talk to responsible people, or to people who think, oh, well, my dad taught me how to shoot a gun way back when. Well, what kind of training does your dad have? Oh, well, he's a hunter. Well, that's great. What kind of tactical training does he have? Has he ever? So, you get into these conversations. And then you can tell them that way. But again, like I said, I agree with you. Training is paramount. Everybody should have some sort. If you're going to carry a gun, Lady Pitbull's amazing. She does all this training, whether it's armed or unarmed. She's always constantly training, and that's the way to be. Those things are a perishable skill. When you don't get them, you lose. It's like riding a bike. Yeah, you don't forget how to ride the bike, but you forgot all those great tricks you knew.
Right.
And the minute you hit that first bump, I don't care if you're gonna eat your face. So it's same thing with firearms. With the training, it's a perishable skill. Lori and I, from spring until fall, or until the onset of winter, we go every other Wednesday. And then, so we keep on top of it. And then not only that, but we also go to all these other training courses. They get a little expensive, but how would you like me as an instructor to come teach you when I don't know what the hell I'm talking about? Exactly.
And getting back to these smart guns just for a second, the one thing that concerns me about these is that, so, I mean, at least from what I'm hearing you say and my personal belief from the gun owners that I know, no seasoned gun owner is really going to feel comfortable with something like this, especially without it being very tested. It's brand new in the market. And I mean, I never even thought about hackers. Like, shame on me, but yeah. Hello. I mean, they can hack home appliances. Why wouldn't they be able to hack some sort of small firearm? That would not make me feel very safe. So the market that's left is maybe the yuppies, who think guns are dangerous, but, they're watching crime in the cities and going, honey, I know we've always been against guns, but maybe one of these smart guns would be safer. You know what I mean? So you're going to have unseasoned gun owners that maybe would be putting their dollars toward bringing these onto the market. And that, to me, would be very uneducated on their part.
And that's where it's going to be. And I hate to say this, but from being in the sales portion of it, too, from selling guns all the time, what you're going to get is you're going to get new shooters that are going to go for this, and you're going to get elderly people and women.
Yeah.
The elderly, because I had an 84-year-old woman. This woman damn near made me cry. She came in and she bought a Taurus Judge. It's a handgun that shoots a .410 shotgun shell.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, what is it?
It's a revolver that shoots a .410 shotgun shell.
What's it called?
The Judge. And better version is the Governor. I like the Governor better. It's made by Smith & Wesson. But
I gotta write that down. I want to look that up.
It's an amazing handgun. I've owned one, and they get a little expensive to shoot. But we sold that gun to her because at 15 feet, you kind of, how they say, well, shotgun, bull. You have to aim a shotgun because the barrel's so darn long. But the barrel on these Taurus Judge is only 2 inches. So at 15 feet, you're going to get a 3-foot wide spread.
Would she land on her butt, too?
It pushes you back a little bit. No, I had, Lori and I taught a class, and this woman's videos on Facebook. She was 76 years young, and we nicknamed her Granny Oakley. And she was shooting the same revolver.
Wow.
But they get, they're new shooters, and they're always looking for a gun with a safety. Young moms come in all the time. They want a gun with a safety. And I tell them, how old's your kid? Oh, 5 years old. I said, and I'll hold the gun up, a pistol, and I'll say, "You think your 5-year-old's not going to be able to flip that little lever right there?" And I'll flip it down, and they'll go, "Yeah, oh, you're right." It's not the safety on the pistol; it's the safety on the adult, and you got to train your kid.
Right. Which is the way it used to be.
Right.
That's the way it was when we were kids. I mean, there wasn't, people had shotguns hanging in the back of their trucks, and a few of us were talking about in junior high school how during hunting season the kids would bring their rifles to school because after school they'd go hunting.
That's fun.
It's pretty crazy.
I never got to do that living in New York City, though.
Oh yeah, well, New York City probably not.
I grew up. I ever shot at were Africans, Mexicans, Dominicans, Puerto Ricans.
The cans.
Yeah. So, no, but, back to the people that market for that smart gun would be, young moms always looking for a gun with a safety, and, older people that have been there having home invasions in their neighborhoods.
Yeah, like Detroit.
Look at that older couple in, was it California that got invaded? And then they shot both of those kids that broke in. Yeah,
that was a couple weeks back.
Yeah, and now they're getting sued for shooting the kids. Well, why'd you shoot them? They were only 16. You didn't have to shoot them. It's like, well, they're old enough to break into my home. They're old enough to steal from me, and they had weapons. So, yeah, I'd shoot them, too.
That was one of the things that we talked about in that firearm class that I took was if someone does break into your home, a lot of states don't have a castle law like here. And in states that you don't have a castle law, if you cannot prove that you were threatened with deadly force and you shoot somebody, you could literally be held liable. And I couldn't even believe that. And they went through quite a number of cases where, like a criminal was trying to break in through a skylight, let's say, and he fell. And he fell through the skylight and turned around and sued the homeowner. And, what right side up world does that happen in? If someone breaks into your house, I don't care who you are or how old you are, you just broke into my house. If you don't want someone to shoot you or hit you over the head with a tire iron or, hit you in the temple with a baseball bat, then don't come walking through my door uninvited. That simple.
You're right. Don't come into my home. Right. You'll get shot by my wife.
Right.
I tell you, I could go over to where she's sitting right now, and within 6 feet of her, within arm's reach, she'll have at least one pistol and a knife and a flash.
Inner shock.
Yeah, she'll have one somewhere. It'll either be sitting beside her, around her, on her, but and that's one of the things that I love about the way she trains and how she listens. But there was you talk about falling through the skylight. California a couple of years ago, the guy that tried to break into somebody's home through the garage door. And he got locked in the garage. He was stuck in the garage while they were gone for the weekend for 3 days. So he sued them and won.
Oh, for what? Pain and suffering?
Yeah. They gave
him, my God.
They gave him pain and suffering because he was locked in because they didn't have an avenue for him to get out of the garage.
So he became a prisoner. Oh, how sad.
It's like, well, you know what? Nobody was home. You broke into my house. You were going to steal or hurt my family. And you're going to sue me because you got locked into my garage. It turns out there was no food in the garage, obviously. So he was dehydrated and malnourished because he didn't eat or drink anything for 3 days.
I feel so bad.
Yeah, it serves him right. Dirty bastard.
Well, here, talking about a lawsuit, actually, I mentioned this to you right before we went on air. There was that quote-unquote shooting rampage that happened here in Rochester, and I believe that this was right before the New York State legislation got passed. Because JJ actually backed me up on this. In New York, you don't hear about AR-15 assaults. When they passed the SAFE Act, they made it sound like, there's AR-15 attacks everywhere. You don't. The first AR-15 attack I had heard about was this one that happened right around the time of the legislation, right around the time of Sandy Hook, where this guy was kind of wacky. He somehow borrowed a gun from neighbors. He started a house on fire, and when the firemen came, he started picking them off. Right?
Yeah.
That was nuts. The whole thing was nuts. And I don't remember if he was on drugs or whatever his problem was, but the dude wasn't quite right to begin with. And, you know, shame on his neighbors for lending some whack job neighbor a gun. You know what I mean? But
yeah, I saw the lawsuit. They're suing Gander Mountain. They shouldn't be suing the Gander Mountain. They should be suing the neighbor.
Right. So here's this lawsuit, Gander Mountain being sued over the sale of gun used in Christmas Eve rampage that killed firefighters. Company that sold the weapon used in a Christmas Eve shooting that left 2 Rochester area volunteer firefighters dead is being sued by the victims. Semi-automatic rifle used by William Spangler on December 24, 2012 to kill 2 West Webster firefighters and wound 2 others was purchased at Gander Mountain store by his neighbor, Don Nugent. Spangler couldn't buy a gun because he was a felon. So, I mean, right, I thought the law was that if you own the gun and it was involved in a crime, the perpetration of a crime, you are the one who's held responsible. It is licensed and registered in your name, correct?
In New York State and City, yes. Part of the problem with those guys right there, and you just read that last line right there, that says it all. Number one, the guy's a felon. Number two, the first guy that bought the rifle did what's called a straw purchase. That's a $250,000 fine and 10 years in jail.
That's what I thought.
So
why is it Gander Mountains? How would Gander Mountain know?
And they don't.
And she passed the background check, you know?
Yeah, no. Well, that's the whole thing. Whoever bought the gun passed the background check, but you have what's called the straw purchase. And that's basically somebody buying a gun for someone who's not allowed to have a gun.
Right.
And that's a felony in itself. Then that form you fill out, the 4473, which is a background check that these liberals seem to think they don't do. That's another one. And if you lie on that form, that's another felony. So they can chase you down for that. So, you know, these people don't realize that you're committing multiple felonies and then they want to add more laws. What they need to do is enforce the ones we already have.
Well, I'm just looking down at this next paragraph, and it's interesting as to who filed the lawsuit. It actually was the Brady Center, which I'm thinking that's Brady that got shot during the Reagan shooting, right?
Yep.
Yeah. The Brady Center to Prevent Gun Violence said that it filed the lawsuit on Tuesday on behalf of the 4 victims, claiming that Minnesota-based Gander Mountain should have realized Nugent was making a straw purchase for Spangler, who accompanied her into the store. A spokesman for Gander Mountain said that they haven't seen the lawsuit. Nugent and Spangler's estate are also named in the lawsuit. So the Brady Center to Prevent Gun Violence, who wasn't affected in any way, shape, or form by the shooting, is filing a lawsuit against everyone.
Yeah. Because they're trying, it's like Lori once told me, you know, you throw the noodles on the wall, see what sticks.
Right.
And that's what they're trying to do, because every law or every time a judge lets something go, it sets a new precedent for them.
Exactly. And I think this is what Jackson Chat was talking about. This is like you being a bar, giving someone alcohol, and then they go get into an accident later.
Well, there are...
A week later, mind you.
Oh, no, a week later, no. Because there are some states that the bartender...
Yeah, in New York there are, yes.
Yeah, because I was a bartender in New York for a little bit, so, yeah. If you see they were too inebriated and you knew they were driving, you had to cut them off.
Exactly. But a week later, right? I mean, you sold them, and how would you know? I mean, I might bring a friend with me to go purchase a firearm, especially if I were a woman. Wouldn't you? You know, a lot of women, I'm sure, do that.
And we're savvy. When we sell guns in these big box stores like that, you gotta know what you're talking about, and they do a lot of training. So what they're talking about is BS, because with Gander Mountain, I know. Well, here I work for Gander Mountain, right? And I sell guns there part-time, and I train part-time. So the thing is that these people don't understand that they put you through a boatload of training before they let you sell a gun, and before they make you. They put you through these scenarios, and oh, hey, Joe Schmo wants to buy a gun for B. So there's the obvious ones where the guy's handing money to another guy. If you see money transferring, it's a red flag, and we know it's your job that if even if it's not a straw purchase and your boss thinks it is, you lose your job. And they don't care. They make so much damn. The store I work at makes $12 million a year. You know, and that's most of its gun sales. I would say about 8 million, 9 million of its gun sales. These people don't realize that we go through all this training and we go through, and I'm the guys that I work with, they're pretty smart. They don't hire. There are a couple of knuckleheads in there, but not for the most part. Even they know that you don't sell a gun. Now, if you came in with your husband, I wouldn't care two shits. Sorry, I wouldn't care too about it because your husband and yourself. But if it was you and your best friend or some kid, then I would be like, all right, here's what we're gonna look. Who's buying the gun, you or you? All right, you go away. I'll talk to her and we'll deal with it from there. Because there are some guys that they'll come up and they'll point at this gun. Try that one. Try that one. Try that one. Yeah, that's the one you want right there. You know what? I'm not going to sell them the gun because that is a straw purchase. You don't want the guy telling you. Sorry, I get admin about this stuff.
Well, I mean, like the first time I ever looked at guns, I wouldn't have known anything about it. I probably would have had a friend of mine come with me to tell me what I wanted. Do I want an automatic, a semi-automatic, or a single shot? You know what I mean? If I'm looking, yeah. I mean, how would you know if you'd never shot one before?
Yeah, YouTube is your best friend.
Yeah.
I tell people that every day. YouTube is your best friend, If you want to learn something, or you can go, and I love having people come into the shop, even if they don't buy, and they ask questions. Look, what do you want it for? What are you going to do? Are you going to carry this, or is it just for the home? Is it for the car? What are you going to do with it? You're going to go hunting with it, or you're not? And you ask them a series of questions, and you know what they're looking for. I get the husband comes in with the wife, and he wants the wife to get a revolver. You wind up watching these women, and Lori, she's my witness. She was in a class with me one day. This woman shot this beautiful pink. It's called the lady, the pink lady. It's a revolver, 38 special. It beat her hand up so bad she started sobbing right there on the firing line.
Oh no!
No, I'm not kidding. So I went over and I kind of reached over and I snatched the gun out of her hand and I said, "Do you mind if I take this?" After I've already took it from her, I waved Lori over. And Lori comes over, and I was like, all right, I gave Lori the revolver and said, here, she needs some work. So we gave her one of our semi-automatics, and she was perfect.
Yeah.
It's just those revolvers beat you up with today's ammo.
I did see a cute pink one in a Bursa that one of my friends had. It was pretty neat.
They make everything in pink anymore. And if they don't make it, you can get it Duracoated. They'll paint it for you.
The thing is, we had joked about that a long time ago, like Hello Kitty AR-15s. Right. But if you were ever really like in a situation where you're going to be hiding somewhere, trying to protect your family, you're not going to want a pink Hello Kitty gun. It's going to kind of give you away, don't you think?
There's talk about pink guns. It'll give you away. However, I've never seen a criminal that complained because he got shot by a pink gun or bragged about it. Because I know when I was a kid in New York, these kids get shot and they'd come over and they start bragging. Well, I've been shot 3 times. Ain't nothing bad happened to me. They get all. You tell them you shoot them with a pink gun, see what they brag about. But,
yeah, get them to laugh about it first.
Yeah, about 4 years ago, here in Indianapolis, there was a young man and a woman. They went into the grocery store. Well, the girl had the pink 380. So he takes it from her, and he says, here, I'll carry it. And he shoved it in his belt without a holster. So they started walking through the grocery store. One thing led to another, and he blows a hole right through his pecker.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. So he shot himself with a pink 380 right in the nads. Or not the nads, but, the other part. And, that was a big thing that it was all over the news for about a week. About 3 years ago, maybe almost 4. Yeah, laughing stock.
They warned us at that training about holstering and being very careful because a few years before they had somebody who was having trouble keeping their finger off the trigger and did just that and got themselves right in the femoral artery, and it was $15,000 to get a medevac to come pick him up to take him to the hospital. So, we were all very careful about that. Not good.
Yeah, holstering and holstering. Always have a holster, whether it's in your pocket, purse, or hip. Always have a holster.
Yeah, don't wear it in your pants.
Nah, they call that Mexican carry, believe it or not.
Do they? Well, it's not very safe. I've seen quite a number of stories. I mean, police brutality and shootings are one of the categories that I typically follow on one of my Facebook pages for the morning show. And there have been quite a few stories of people accidentally doing dumb things like that to themselves.
The most famous one right now is called Tex Grubner. Have you seen him?
Mm-mm.
He was training with a .45, and he put a bullet in his thigh. I'll see if I can find it. It's on YouTube, but his name is Tex Grubner. Let's see.
What? And he did some dumb. Oh, was he he was the teacher that he was doing the safety class?
No, that's the black guy from the DEA. I met him, by the way.
Did you? The guy who shot himself. I mean, it's not even funny. It's not even funny, but
yeah, he was a semi-pro football player for a little bit too. So, no, that's the DEA agent. This guy was Tex Grubner, and the thing out of his mouth was, "I just effing shot myself."
Oh no!
Yeah.
Well, if you want to look for that,
yeah, go ahead and I'll look.
Okay, yeah, I had a story here back from when we were talking about smart guns. Sometimes Forbes really surprises me. You know, I mean, any of these mainstream publications I always take with a grain of salt, and I try to find the hidden message because it's always something that they're trying to shape our view on things. But the smart gun article, I thought they did a pretty decent job on, and it was basically titled "Why You Should Be Concerned About the New Smart Guns, Whether You Love Them or Hate Guns." And they go through a few different enumerated issues that they see from the very beginning. And some of these I've thought of, some of these I haven't. So I'll just bounce through these while you're finding that.
Well, Joe found it already, but go ahead.
All right. Well,
he posted it up for us. So
hold on. Oh, there you go, Mr. Friday. All right, here. Don't type in chat. Let me click it. There we go. Here comes.
I just fucking shot myself.
Whoops.
Oh, son of a bitch! I just shot my...
Whoops. Yeah, and you know, he's got one of those people targets. You know, the targets that have a picture of the bad guy on it aiming at you. And he's standing right up next to it. I mean, why would you do that?
That is actually a training technique where if you get surprised by an assailant, what you're supposed to do with your non-shooting hand, you're supposed to push him away as you reach with your gun hand and draw and shoot. So there's all kinds of things wrong with that tactic. Number one, his hand is out in front of his gun before he's drawing, so he could either shot himself in the leg or shot himself in the hand. And this one, he shot himself in the leg. But yeah, that's one of the techniques that they practice, is creating a distance between you and your attacker. Lady Pitbull, she'll tell you that's the first thing they teach you is in martial arts is get that distance, because that's how you can get away from them. Don't let them grab hold of you.
Yeah, we didn't do that. We actually cleared buildings and things. We had to rescue hostages, but we did not push assailants away.
No, that one's a little bit too advanced, but it's kind of funny.
Wow. Yeah, and I mean, the thigh's not a good place to shoot yourself at all.
No, but it's kind of funny, though.
Yeah.
If you're going to shoot yourself, the thigh's the best place to do it.
Not the foot?
Yeah, no, not the foot, not the face, not the penis, you know. Oh, yeah, Kodachrome just found a DEA agent. And
all right, we'll do the DEA agent, and then I'll read the, here we go. And then I'll read the smart gun issues.
I have a gun on my side right here. Just this week, at the beginning of the week, a young boy, not even 16 years old, was killed because he was playing with a gun. And see, this is an unloaded gun. Right here, Mr. Gun. No, this is a Glock 40. Big said, too short, all of them talk about Glock 40. Okay, I'm the only one in this room professional enough that I know of to carry this Glock 40. I'm the only. No, is everybody all right? You all right? Nah, this is false.
He's playing it cool.
Yeah, I mean, listen up, guys. But listen up. And I made a mistake. So listen to me. Guys, listen to me. Yeah, listen to me. See that how that accident happened? It can happen to you and you can be blown away. Okay? So guys, never play with guns. See how accidents happen? They happen. Okay, now I'll probably never ever be able to show guns again. But Brian, bring that other gun out, Brian. Brian. Yeah, Bobby, see that right there. See that right there. Brian.
He's still teaching the class, and he shot himself in the foot.
Well, there's a back in the 90s, there's an inherent failing to the Glocks. And don't get me wrong, I actually have a Glock on my hip right now. It's Lori's favorite gun. It's probably the best gun to carry. But what back in the 90s when the Glocks first came out, what they used to tell you was when the pistol is not being carried or is not loaded, you're supposed to take the tension off the trigger by squeezing it. And that's a no-no. Keep, rule number 2, keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot. So, he broke rule number 1, which was he pointed at his own leg. Then he broke rule number 2, which was put his finger in the trigger. But with the Glocks, originally when you put them away in the original boxes, they would automatically, the trigger would get pulled and it would click when you put it in the box. So that was one of the things you had to do. So, I'm sorry, I got prepper chicks over here making faces at me. So then you'd have to click that trigger on it. And even now with a Glock, when you want to take it apart, you still have to make sure that it's clear and squeeze the trigger before it'll come apart. So that's one of the things I do not like about the Glock is that the trigger has to be squeezed in order to perform certain functions. Now,
I want to ask, when I was at that class, my partner had a Glock, and he kept getting a lot of misfires on his ammo. And, I mean, they bought bulk, so it's possible that they had some old ammo in there or something. But I was just wondering, because his dad also had a Glock and had the same issues, but they were both using the same ammo. So is it the Glock, or is it the ammo? Does the Glock tend to jam more often? No. Because it was different. It was a bit different.
No, it's the ammunition in that case because both Glocks were doing it. Okay. And it depends on the type of malfunction because there's a malfunction where Glocks are prone to, if you don't hold it right, you'll get what's called a stovepipe or a failure to eject where the cartridge, the empty casing gets stuck in the chamber or on the slide. And it comes from limp wristing, not having a strong grip or locking your wrist when you shoot. So, when you're teaching a class, I wouldn't use the word limp wristing. I just tell them to have a firmer grip and lock their wrist. But usually it's because they're being a Nancy boy and they're not having a good grip on it. But that's a failure to eject, which is one kind of malfunction versus the what you said were failure to fires because they had bad ammo.
Yeah. And that was kind of what the assessment was at the end. Now, how many people do you typically have in a class? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, we've had as many as 20. Oh my God, that was horrible. It was a fantastic class, but it was just too many questions, not enough time to focus. So what we do now is we focus on no more than 6.
Wow.
Yeah, because
we had 42.
No, we don't do that. Because I feel like that's puppy milling, and I don't get to focus with you on how I want you to hold the gun, what I want you to do, how I want you to stand, which that all changes when it hits the fan because we teach you from the beginning. You walk baby steps. You gotta crawl before you can walk before you can run, and then we show you all that, and then by the end of the class, which is an 8-hour class, we're like, all right, now everything we taught you in the beginning of the class up until now basically counts for nothing when somebody grabs you by the throat.
Right.
Because you're not going to stand just so, and you're not going to put your hand out, and you're not going to breathe, and you're not going to line. You're going to freak out. You're going to grab the gun however you can. You're going to stick it in his ribs. You're going to squeeze the trigger. So we go through all that stuff, but I try to focus. So we'll take 6, no more, usually no more than 6, and then I'll take 3, and then usually, hopefully it's like 3 couples, and then Lori will get the women, I'll get the guys, and let her work on the girls, and I'll take care of the boys, you know, because girls have parts that you guys have to talk about, you know, hips and boobs and all that good stuff.
Yeah, we didn't talk about any of that.
Yeah,
it was too hot. It was 10-hour days and 100-degree heat. It was too hot.
In that class you took was more of an advanced class too, where they already assume that you know how to shoot when you first walk in there.
Yeah, surprise. But hey, I won the man-on-man. So, you know how you guys always say, like, beginner's luck? I think so.
Well, the first thing I like to do when we build a class and when we teach a class is build confidence. You know, you got to build the person's confidence, because if you don't build their confidence, they're going to sit there and they're going to stew in it for the rest of the class. They're not going to learn anything.
Right. So. And you know, too, I found, at least in a class this big, you know, in the beginning, we didn't have assigned partners or anything. So in the beginning, I had a couple partners that were like, you know, they kind of were just learning at the same level I was. But then the partner I had on day number 2, he was just a kid too, but oh my God, he was great. He had been airsoft for many years, you know what I mean? So like he had a stance and he helped me so much, and in the end, I won the man-on-man at the end. And I mean, if there was one person least likely out of that whole class, it would have been me. But hey, you know how I won? I followed the first rule: don't kill the hostage.
That's the best rule to follow.
Yeah.
I think you can shoot them in certain occasions, though.
Oh, yeah?
What was that, Speed or something, where they shot the hostage in the leg?
Oh, yeah. Don't kill the hostage.
No, Speed or Speed, yeah, Speed. But yeah, no, the training is fantastic. I think it's awesome, and I'm glad you did it, and I hope everybody else will go out and get some sort of training.
It definitely was worth it for anyone who hasn't had some sort of professional training. And it's one thing to have friends or family, you know, have you out plinking and stuff. And we did, last year or the year before, the guys had me out doing clay pigeons, and I got one. I was very proud of myself. But, you know, it's totally different when you're in a structured setting and you have real targets and you're measuring yourself up against, you know, others that are in at least a similar range as you, and you have professional instructors there to ask questions, you know? And it definitely was a huge help.
No, there's a guy, his name is Rob Pincus, and if he comes into New York, which I think he's going to be there, if you can afford his class, I would say please take it, just because the guy's amazing. But they are kind of expensive. They're $600 for a weekend for him to teach a class.
Wow.
He can take a complete beginner, and by the end of that weekend, he's basically got you shooting like a pro.
You're full-on ninja, huh?
Yeah, full-on, well, without all the gear. But he teaches you the best ergonomic way to hold the gun, and how to he doesn't talk about standing just right or just so. He tells you how to hold it a certain way so your body locks up. And no matter what, wherever you're looking, the gun's going the same direction as you're looking. And if you're only 15 feet away from the guy, that's perfect, because you're going to hit him every time. You know?
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, do we get to the smart gun bullets here really quick, do you think, of all the reasons why you don't want one, even if you're someone who thinks it might be okay? Forbes, I mean, like I said, I was very surprised that Forbes put this out, because I thought that they probably would be fighting against gun technology, but hey, they are saying that smart guns are not good, and here is the reason why. It says, while not all these issues below apply necessarily to every smart gun, together they form a reason for concern Number 1, electronic devices require a power source, and smart guns are no exception. Without electricity, they cannot be fired. Someone intent on using a firearm for home defense could find themselves in serious danger if they drew a weapon on an armed intruder only to find that the batteries are drained. Wow, wouldn't that suck? I mean, how many times have you done that with a flashlight, right?
Yeah, true.
In general, it is not ideal to add a requirement for power to devices utilized in cases of emergency that did not need electricity previously. So, alright, that's number 1. Number 2, computer malfunctions and authentication technology is not perfect. Lawfully armed citizens protecting themselves and or their families could be killed if their weapons malfunction during a home invasion or attempted rape, while some have argued that conventional semi-automatic handguns also periodically jam. Smart guns add a whole new dimension of failure possibilities. Furthermore, technical problems take far longer to correct than firearm failures. Yeah, like rebooting your gun? That would be horrible. Number 3, at least one smart gun that has entered the marketplace requires the owner to wear a special watch. That's the clip that we watched. The gun will only fire if it's within a short distance from the watch. While any scheme may afford some level of protection, it might do little in others. There are still some others that require a PIN, and others that could be requiring biometrics. And that's number 4. Some upcoming smart gun models use biometrics to authenticate users, but biometrics take time to process and are often inaccurate. And yeah, if you remember the iPhone S5, I think, or 5S, whatever the newer one was, that had the thumbprint and people were using their nipple to authenticate.
Using cat's paws.
Yes, or your cat paw. You know, it's not, at times, I mean, I don't see what kind of protection that's going to afford you if you can use a nipple or a cat paw or your thumb. Number 5, it says, as described in a previous article, smart guns may be susceptible to government tracking and or jamming. You brought that up. How hard would it be for the government to require manufacturers to surreptitiously include computer-enhanced weapons, some circuitry that would allow law enforcement to track or even disable the weapons? And I had mentioned that video that I had seen about the guns that they were giving the rebels in Syria. They had said that they could disable them by GPS, by date, by time. So there was no worry that we were giving these weapons to all these rebels. So don't think that that technology isn't being thought about, if not already being put into things here. Number 6, you mentioned this also. Smart guns might be hackable, just like our smart appliances. Even without embedded tracking or jamming technology, smart guns that rely on radio frequency, which are the RF tags, might be susceptible to remote jamming, not something that a law enforcement officer or a law-abiding citizen would want to find out when a thug is threatening them with a weapon equipped with a jammer. Right. Now, think about that. And of course, criminals are going to find ways to thwart these, so they probably would have jamming devices.
Jules, this one's going to get you on some of the other stuff you talk about, but what's going to stop them from making it so that you can't use that smart gun unless you have a chip embedded on the back of your hand or in your forehead?
And I thought about that, absolutely. That could be a good way for them to get us to take the chip.
You know, you want to defend yourself, you got to take this chip in your hand or on your forehead.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, that chip's great for everything else. You can buy your food with it.
Last thing here, some of these smart guns also have a feature, some of the new smart guns, that prevent a gun from firing at anything that is not a specialized target. So I don't know what that means. It says this makes the gun safer for home storage and eliminates the ability to rely on it for self-defense. And guess what? We are out of time and the music's going to start. So Eddie, thank you so much. That was such a fast hour. Thank you for being here with me.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you everybody for listening. My very first PrimerTime gun show, and I don't hear any music, so we'll just keep talking. Maybe there isn't music. I don't know. Maybe I didn't turn it on at one point accidentally, but that's okay. So, yeah. All right. Well, up next we have Prepper Chicks After Dark with the round table, always talking about scenarios. There we are. All right, guys. Have a good night. Educate. Go on.